So I'm here at Kirkleatham. We're going to be making some weed tea, which is really fantastic for all of the flowers and vegetables, and it's a great way to use up unwanted weeds. So this one we're going to use dock leaves and thistles. I've got a barrel, and all I'm going to do is put them in. I've been round this site this morning and I've dug these up. These are the tap roots, which is so important for the tea, because this is where all the nutrients and all the goodness that your plants are going to want to feed. So it's really important you get that full root out. If it does snap, don't worry too much. Pop it in anyway and it should work, we'll see. So what we do is we fill it up as much as we can. Doesn't matter about any soil or any other little bits on there, it'll all help. There's plenty of different teas, nettles, seaweed, and we do them in different barrels. Popping it all in there, roots and all. Don't forget your gloves if you're doing thistles so you don't hurt your fingers. See how this one snapped off as I pulled it out? It's already got a little bit of a root on. We've got plenty of tap roots in there, so we'll pop it in anyway. Now our next step is to top it up with some water. So what I've done is we've got a duck pond over there, and I've just filled up some of this bucket with pond water. It's already full of dirtiness, and that's really good to kickstart this tea off. So I'm just going to pour that in. This takes about 2 weeks to do what it needs to do. Just going to put the hose on. This takes about 2 weeks to do what it needs to do. You can constantly top it up with your thistles and dock leaves. Keep stirring it. It will get smelly. The smellier it is, the better it is. If you've got a weak stomach, peg on your nose. I'm just going to fill that up. If the hose will stay. So after 2 weeks, keep stirring it. Dilute it with water about 1 to 10. If you don't, it's really strong and it's going to really kill off any veg and stuff, so the point is doing it that way. Top it up with your water in a separate bucket. Hose pipes doing something dirty. After 6 weeks, all of the weeds and everything in the bottom of this barrel would need to come out and replace it with other things, because it's going to get slimy and sludgy and dirty, and that's not what you're wanting for your plants. So replace anything you put in there after 6 weeks. This may take a little while to fill up because the hose pipe isn't that fast flowing, but that is pretty much it. When it's full, give it a good stir, and remember, the smellier the better. So I've just made thistle and dock tea. So I've got Sharon here, and I'd like to ask Sharon what other weed teas are beneficial for the garden and our plants.
Okay, so the first plant, who is like really the organic gardener's best friend, is comfrey. So comfrey is amazing. In the olden days, it used to be called nipbone, because it actually promotes cell growth, so you can't eat too much of it internally because it will actually promote your cells to grow. If you were to have a fracture or something and put a comfrey poultice on it, it'll actually encourage the bone to reconnect.
Oh, wow.
It's absolutely fab. And in the garden, it's brilliant for feed, because it's got your NPK, your nitrogen, your potassium and your phosphorus.
So everything.
Everything. So it's a balanced plant food.
Wow.
And it grows so well, you can get 3 cuts off it a year.
Do any other weeds do that?
Well, nettles are brilliant. Nettles are also can be made into a tea, and they're full of nitrogen. So actually some plants, like chili peppers for example, don't like really nitrogen rich feeds, because they're really good for leaf production. So your brassicas, your cabbages, your broccolis, that kind of thing, love all that nitrogen. That's what they really need. But a more balanced feed, like the comfrey, is better for things like your fruiting, your chilies, your tomatoes, your aubergines, cucumbers, that kind of thing. But I would give them a bit of both, maybe alternate feeding them.
Would you water that down the same as you would with your thistle and dock tea?
I would normally do comfrey 1 to 10.
The same as my thistles?
Yeah.
Okay.
And nettles sometimes 1 to 5, 1 to 10 depending. You don't want it too strong, but because it's natural, you can't really go wrong. But obviously you don't want it to be too intense, because then you'll get all leaves and no fruit. So it is about getting a balance, and I do occasionally combine them as well. Just depending on if a plant is poorly, I'll give it a little bit of a combination, and add a little bit of Epsom salts as well for magnesium.
Brilliant idea. I also heard that you can use seaweed. Obviously we don't have seaweed on site, is that true?
Yes, I've bought seaweed fertiliser in the past, and I have made seaweed fertiliser with seaweed from the beach, but you've got to be a bit careful about where you collect it from, and you know, is it a protected area and all that kind of thing. So I tend to try and just do what we can grow, really. We're trying to be a little bit sustainable in our production, and we use our own animal manure and everything. You can make compost tea as well. If you have your compost from the compost heap, you can mix that with water and use that as a feed. And something we're looking at now, I was telling you about a video I watched about microbial activity. So that's a lot to do with foliar sprays, where you use the same feed but you spray it onto the leaves, and that stops the diseases getting in to the plants.
Brilliant.
So with the weather we've had this year, it's been so difficult, hasn't it, in the tunnel?
Yeah, it's been
Especially
very
the
confusing.
cucumbers, and they've been very mildewy and a little bit pooly. So I think foliar feed will be the thing to do for that, really, to keep them healthy.
Great way to make feed without having to spend your money in the shops,
Absolutely.
just from your own back garden. Brilliant. Thank you.